just when I'm about to leave, they bring me back. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, and just like the title below says, this will be my review of HBO's newest show, Lovecraft Country. Okay, so before we begin this review, I just wanted to say how very happy and excited I am about this show. Like, I haven't been excited for another show, like, at all so far since HBO's Watchmen. Like, that I was very happy was around and I was very excited about. And then maybe before that, Pose. And I just really want this episode to maintain the amazingness isness I'm making up words, amazingness of the first episode, and I really do hope that we can maybe get another series. I don't know if this is gonna be just like a one-time series things like Watchmen, but I'm just happy it's around for right now. I'm enjoying the time that I have with it and hope I can get more of it. So for the episode, we start off in a dream fantasy sequence where we see the main character, Atticus, but people call him Tick, and he is a soldier in the war he's fighting. It's very black and white, which I really liked and appreciated when they started introducing color. First with like the orange redness of like an explosion and flames, and then when he's in the trenches fighting and he slowly pulls himself out of the trenches fighting, we then become immersed in color, and at the same time we're immersed in color, we see we see how just more surreal and fantasy like it actually is, because up until then it kind of looked like maybe a flashback or like you know something that was actually happening, but like no, it's actually a fantasy with like aliens and monsters. And while the main character he is fighting, you see like a giant saucer, and then out of like the alien giant saucer comes down a red painted woman who's actually Jamie Chung. And when I first initially saw her, like, I recognized the face, but I was having a hard time with the name, so I had to Google it later. But like, hey, nice to see her. I like her. And then, she's coming down, and then she's like embracing him, and I guess maybe she was supposed to be like a love interest for him. This was my initial thoughts, because later on it is explained as the episode progresses what it is. And then, he turns around and he sees like this giant alien aquatic like monster coming down, and we think he's done for it, but then out of nowhere, the one and only 42, he comes up and he just takes his bat and he splits the thing in half, and he's like, don't worry, man, I got you, bro, I got you, man, we got this. And that was a really cool thing to have. And like by then, like, for sure that this is at the very least a daydream, if not like an actual dream. And then the monster kind of like reforms itself, and that's always like the scariest thing. Like, you have this terrifying monster that you think you beat, only to turn around and find out that either it's reshaping itself like it never happened, like it's got that Wolverine healing factor, or it splits into two, and then you have two monsters instead of just the one, like the Greco-Roman Hydra that Hercules had to fight in like mythology. Like that yeah, I think like splitting off and making more of it, that's even more scarier. But anyway, and then like, while this dream is progressing, suddenly there's like a shake in the real world that wakes Tick up, and then we realize that it was indeed a dream. It's confirmed, and he's in a bus, and of course, because it's the 1950s, he's in the back of the colored sections, and they are crossing out of the South, like they're on a bridge, that's in the state of Kentucky. They are crossing out of the South and going up north. And he gives the little middle finger to the South, which is completely understandable, especially given it's the 1950s. And another black person that is in the back is a nice woman. She's just like, yeah, we just crossed another bridge named after some dead slave owner. Like, ain't that the truth? And then the bus breaks down. The bus breaks down and everybody has to get off. And I started getting a little worried. And then, of course, because again, it's the 1950s. I'm going to be saying that a lot just so that you know, like, it's the 1950s, racism, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to say that a lot. So, you know, you've been warned. And so everybody has to get off the bus, and then I start getting worried, you know, like, what's going to happen? Are these people going to, you know, drive off and leave, you know, and leave these two black people, even though they already paid, you know, for the trip up front? Like, they paid to get from point A to point B, like, you're going to abandon them, and then lo and behold, they do get abandoned. Like, it's never outwardly said, like, hey, we're not taking you black peoples, but it is understood, especially by the look of, like, the truck driver that was there to help out, you know, the white people. Like, they get a ride, but Tick and then the black woman that he was riding with, they just gotta book it. They gotta book it on foot. And, you know, he offers to, like, help her with her bags, and then they're just walking this long road alone. Just, I mean, there's a bit more hope because while they may not be in the South, they're, like, right, like, on the border of the South, so there's a little bit of hope because it is just a smidge safer up north. I'm not saying that it's completely safe. Like, there were lynchings in the North too. Like, don't get it twisted. There were lynchings in the North too, not as much as in the South, but lynchings were there too. So there was still that fear for me. And as they're walking and, you know, they're talking, they're getting to know each other, we later find out from Tick that the dream that he had was influenced by a book called it was The Princess of Mars, the Mars Princess or something, and that the main character of that book is John Carter. And they actually did, like, a movie adaptation about that, like, what was it, back in, like, 2012, I think, or whatever. And then as he's explaining it, he's mentioning that the main character, he was a former Confederate soldier. And the black lady's like, a Confederate soldier? You're reading a book where the Confederate soldier is the hero, you're idolizing that, and then Tick, his defense to that is like, oh, well, that's who he used to be, it's not who he is anymore. I'm just like, there is no being an ex-Confederate soldier. You fought for slavery, unless you were a spy. Unless you were a spy for the Union, like, you were a Confederate soldier who fought for slavery. There's no getting over that. Like, you had a choice, you could have either, like, deserted, or you could have gone to the Union and offered to be a spy. Those were, like, your only two options to be redeemed for being a Confederate soldier. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so eventually, as the story progresses, you know, Tig, he makes it home safely. Hopefully, I mean, I believe it is understood that, the black lady, she made to where she needed to go safely as well. And, Tig, but before we see Tig, we see his family. We see his uncle and his aunt. And, and it's in the middle of the day. They really don't want to get out of bed, which I understand. Like, I've had those days where it was a long work week. It's now Saturday morning. I just want to stay in bed for, like, forever. But just because it's Saturday, like, doesn't mean that I still don't have stuff to do. Like, I have, laundry. I have to go, like, buy groceries. I have to, like, get my car washed, get the oil changed. Like, there's still stuff to do, even though it's a Saturday. The perils of being an adult. And they, before they get up and, start their day, they decide to have some relations. Because they haven't had relations in the middle of the day in forever, and they want to give God a show. I'm just like, and then below, their daughter can hear it, and I can only imagine, like, just ugh. And the only thing that, interrupts that and saves her from that awkward moment is the resurgence of her cousin, who for some reason does not take the front door. He comes over by the window, which makes her scream, And because she has good parents, they stopped what they were doing to go, investigate and see who, what's going on with their daughter, because it sounded like she was in distress. But it turns out her scream wasn't a scream of her being in peril, but it was a scream of joy, like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in forever. I miss you. I love you so much, cousin. And then they have like the quick little family reunion. And while they're having that reunion, Tig, he explains to his uncle that, hey, I got a letter from my dad saying, and that's why I'm here. And then, come to find out, his father has been missing for a long time. And apparently that is not unusual for Tig's father, because he's a drunk. It is understood that he has a drinking problem, and so it's not out of the ordinary for him to go on a bender. And it wasn't until Tig's father's landlord came to his uncle, whose name is George, that, hey, rent's due. And then now they're starting to worry that, something is going on. And then while all of this is happening, we also get like a little bit more info on Tig's family. Because again, Tig's uncle George is his uncle, through his paternal line, so it's his father's brother. And we also learn that Uncle George, he has a very dangerous job where he goes all around the country to find safe ways for Black people to travel. Because, of course, 1950s, it is, well, even now, depending on where you go, Black people, we can't get from point A to point B to point C safely even during the day because of all the racism that we encounter. And because of the mentioning of like Black people traveling and like the dangers that they face, I really had like this very worrisome feeling in like the pit of my gut, like this was foreshadowing something very tragic, especially when the episode mentioned that, Uncle George, he had gotten caught one time, and like a group of racist white men, they like shattered his kneecaps, and this was revealed when Uncle George's wife said that she wanted to go out, and Uncle George is like, no, it's too dangerous, heaven, only knows what those white men would have done to my wife if they had gotten you. I mean, Reese Taylor, everybody. If you don't know her, just Google her. It's very tragic. So they just kept, foreshadowing that, which again, just made me very terrified. And so, we fast forward, and there's Black Party. There's a Black Party, and it's in Chicago, and Black parties, they're really cool, they're really fun, and people are like having a good time. And then we see like this band with this very beautiful, full-bodied singer with her beautiful dark skin, and she got the body, and she's singing, she got a good singing voice. And in this scene, we are introduced to the one and the only Jurnee, who I have loved since Eve's Bayou. And she was also in Full House. And she was in this TV show called Underground that I promise I'm going to watch eventually. It's on the list. But, I love her. I think she's very pretty. I think she's a talented actress. And she is Black Canary. Anybody else in the DCEU that takes that role in the next 10 years, I'm not gonna like. It's nothing personal to the actress herself, but Jurnee, she's Black Canary for me for the next 10 years at least. And and in this show, Jurnee, she plays a character by the name of Letitia, and the beautiful singer is actually her sister. And she comes into town, and she goes off and she sings, because Jurnee, she gotta show off them vocal cords, because she can sing like a beautiful canary. She can sing. And then after they're done with their little number and the band continues to play, we find out that the reason why Jurnee's character is there is because she needs a place to stay. She's run out of money. And then we later find out that Jurnee's character, she is somewhat estranged and what appears to be self-inflicted alienation from her family. She didn't go to her mother's funeral, which I know a lot of people just don't understand. What? How can you not go to your mother's funeral? But given the information that I have so far, I am deciding not to judge her for that because everybody handles grief differently. And for Jurnee, she may have just not been emotionally prepared to like see her mother's body in a casket. Like that's rough for a lot of people, and some people would rather just never see it and never go to the funeral because they can't handle the side of it. So again, based off of the information that I've been provided thus far, assuming that she had a positive relationship with her mother, I am choosing not to judge Jurnee's character for not going to the funeral. And then, you know, as the show progresses, because Jurnee's character's sister only gave her 2 days to stay at her house. After 2 days, then you had to get out. And so because of that, you know, eventually Jurnee's character, she makes the choice to like accompany Uncle George and Tick to go wherever it is that they're going. You know, because she's trying to find like her way in the world. She's not married, she don't have any kids, so you know it's cool, she can do her. Please do it safely, because again, it is the 1950s, and you are a black woman. Like again, even now, you are a black woman. So like, yes, I'm glad that she was able to like go and travel with people that she knows, because apparently she and Tick, they grew up together, and she was just so amazed that Tick went from being like this scrawny beanpole JJ from Good Times, like, type of boy, into like a man, because he was in the army, and he got muscles, and he grown, and he matured, and whatever and whatnot. And like, there's like hints or allusions to the fact that maybe they may embark on a relationship of some sort on a romantic level. We'll see what happens. And then anyway, so then they get in the car and they start traveling, and they're just marking down, places to go that is safe. But before they actually send off, and I actually really liked this because the little girl, like Uncle George's daughter, like Tick's cousin, like she is an artist and she is creative and she's into sci-fi. And that is something that I think is so important, that it is noted and shown. Like, black people, we're a monolith. We all don't like drama and comedy, or some of us, we like drama and comedy, but we also like sci-fi and fantasy too, because there have been times in my life where I have encountered, non-black people who say that, oh, well, the reason why black people aren't in like sci-fi and medieval shows and whatnot is because they're not interested in that. They only like comedy, they only like drama, they only like historical fiction. Like, no, we're not a monolith. We like multiple things. Some of us don't like sci-fi, and then some of us do. Okay, don't write us all off. But anyway, so like, yeah, so we have that moment, and then the characters, they go and they're on their way and they're traveling, and while they're traveling, there is just like these clips and these scenes showing just again how racist America is. Like they actually did, what I really liked was a recreation of the shot of like a line of black people in front of like this picture titled like, oh, the American dream, and then you have nothing but white people smiling and being happy, just again showing that there is a divide in America, that there's one type of America for white people, and then another type of America for everybody else that isn't white, and then different Americas for that, because America for like East Asian Americans is different for America for black people, and then like America for black people is different for people who are Hispanic or Latinx. Like there's different types of Americas for everybody. There is no one true, oh, great America. America was never great. So let's just get that. And as a matter of fact, the 1950s wasn't even all that great. The only thing that was great about the 1950s was the music, and that, depending on like the lyrics and the artist who's making the music, like that's problematic too. But like the music, the fashion, and the gas prices, that's it. Because it was racist, it was homophobic, it was misogynistic, it was sexist, it was xenophobic. Just no. Music, clothes, gas prices. That's it. And as they're traveling, and again, we also like see other things like this sign like saying, inward, don't let the sun, set on your hair. Your hair? Like, just, and that really made me think of like my mother's generation and how she like relayed to me the history of like, don't stay out, don't stay out long. Like if the street lights come on, you need to be home. And I am, starting to realize that that's where it came from, because what I didn't know is that there were actual laws about black people in the 1950s. There were laws in the 1950s about black people not being able to be in certain towns when the sun set. I mean, I knew that was a thing because, my grandparents, they were alive in the 60s and 50s. They were around during that time, and they know what happened. And they told me, like, yeah, if you went to this town or that town, after the sun had dropped, you could die. So I knew that was like I knew that was a thing by societal standards, but I didn't know it was an actual law. That part I didn't know about. It was just, but is it really that surprising though? Is it really that surprising? Like, black people weren't allowed to own guns for the longest time after slavery. So yeah, I'm not surprised. Like, I didn't know, but I'm not surprised. And we get another foreshadowing, and it's super scary and super dangerous. Tick and Jurnee's character and Uncle George, they all stop at like, at one of the towns, and obviously they're hungry, they're tired. Like, anybody who's like been on a long car trip knows like it ain't easy. And this is back in the 1950s where you didn't really have air conditioning. And so yeah, they stop to take a break, and they enter the diner. And honestly, for me, as soon as like I saw that it was just nothing but white folks and you didn't see like a colored section, because initially I didn't see a colored section for them. They went and they sat at the nearest, table. For me, that would have been like a sign like, okay, not gonna go to this town, not gonna go to this bar, let's go somewhere else. And just the white people that were there, they all just like disperse, and they're just trying to eat. They have come there to spend their money, to give that business establishment money, their money, to just eat quietly. They're not there to make any trouble. But no, because they're black, like, they can't have that. And Jurnee, she got to go to the bathroom because, again, it was a long car drive. And then while she's going out, doing like her business, she overhears and listens in to one of the employees saying like, oh my gosh, the Negroes are here. And no, I didn't serve them. I know better not to serve them. I know what happened to the last people. And so Jurnee, she knows that, oh my God, stuff is about, shit's about to get real. We need to go. So she books it. She gets to the car, and like she saves, Tick and Uncle George from being, gathered up by like them racists, because as they were like pulling in, and you see like the dog at the end of its chain barking at them viciously, and that's just like a whole nother level of like a type of oppression and generational trauma that black Americans, black descendants of American chattel slavery have, with dogs. Like, you knew, again, that's another foreshadowing. And then lo and behold, the good old boys come out with their shotguns in a truck, chasing down the black people to shoot and kill them. For what? Going into a diner to spend their money for that business. And so they're chasing them. And it was really scary because, like I said, like, they kept bringing up the fact, black people traveling, and, it's racist. And, Uncle George said he was attacked. And so, again, I really, really, really thought Uncle George would die or get hurt or something. And then, again, you have Jurnee. She's there, and she's a black woman. So there is, the added fear of her, like, her being assaulted before she gets killed. Like, that was just another type of fear that I had as a black woman. And, they're chasing. And what I did like about that scene, is that they weren't just running scared. They were actually fighting back. Because Tick, he used to be in the army. And so he knows how to use a gun. And he had a gun on him. And he was shooting back. that is what I appreciated. Like, they're not just, I mean, yeah, they're running because it's, you know, it's a dangerous situation and they, you know, they got to get the hell out of Dodge, but they're also, you know, fighting back. And I was really hoping that he would just pop the dude in a shotgun who was standing on top of the truck, just pop him right in his skull. I was really hoping for that, but, you know, it didn't happen, and it looked like they were gaining on him. But then out of nowhere, you see the Monopoly silver car, because that's what it looked like, so that's what I'm calling it, the Monopoly game silver car just coming all out, and Uncle George is like, Letty, she's like, I say it, George. And then she just, you know, she speeds up, and, you know, she puts their car in front of, like, of the silver Monopoly game car, and that, you know, gets, you know, the good old boys to stop shooting, because, you know, could be white people in there and we can't have that. And then there's like this weird force field or like gravity or you know, what's the power of magnetism or whatever, because when that car just stops and turns, you know, the truck that was chasing them, they smash into some type of force, flips over, and then they're dead. And, you know, Jurnee's character, Tick, and Uncle George, you know, they don't know what happened. They're like, what the heck happened? But you know what? They're not so curious that they're gonna stop. They're gonna keep going. They're like, oh, like they noted what they saw. They had some questions, but they kept it moving anyway, because you don't know. And then and then the person who gets out of the car it's a white lady, so she'll be fine. She'll be fine. You know, she's white, she'll be fine. And then and they had guns or whatever, so yeah, she'll be fine. So anyway, they keep going, and then, you know, they're safe. They're safe for a moment. And like I said, like I had so much anxiety for them watching that scene, because I was so scared, because, you know, they lynch people. They lynch black people. So I was scared. And so after like driving, you know, away for forever how long, they get lost, and they've been driving around the same, you know, small patch of forest the past 10 times. So they pull over, and then you got a racist cop just comes on them, gun already in hand, cocked, ready to blow their heads off. And he's just so diabolical and cheerful with his sociopathy that's really just unsettling, but also expected. Especially since in a previous scene when they were like at a rest stop at actually Jurnee's character's brother's house, she has a sister and a brother, you know, they were this guy, he has documented complaints with the NAACP. Like, this guy, he's apparently ex-Marine, and he's just a very, like I said, he's a sociopath. He's very vicious. Like, you know, he has the power of like the police department behind him, and he abuses that to no end, because that's the only way that he can get off, is like enacting violence on others, because he's such a pathetic, disgusting human being. And he basically taunts them, like, you know, when the sun sets and you're still here, it would be my duty as an officer to string y'all up against a tree. And then Tick is like, okay, well, you know what? We're just going to book it. And he's just like, no, I think that'll work out just fine. And then this asshole follows them. And that just builds up the fear. And that's really nerve-wracking, because, like, I just calmed down from them being chased by civilians, and now I have to deal with them being chased by actual police officers. And again, it's the 1950s. And, you know, they're just, you know, the sun is slowly going down, and the officer's just calmly following him, just knowing that he's gonna kill them, and he's gonna enjoy it too. That's another thing that you just know is gonna happen. And then I'm telling you, I've never been more afraid of a sun setting in my life. And then, of course, there's a blockade with other police officers. Like, they were never going to get out. It was never that man's intention to let them go so that they could live. He was just playing with them, and again, that just makes it all the more evil. And then with all of the officers' guns, out and pointed at them, they take Tick and Jurnee's character and Uncle George out of their cars, and then they walk them in at night in in the woods, and they're taking them there deep. Like, that that nothing good is intended, nothing even, not even just sub-level physical harassment. It is their intention to kill those black people. And the black people, they know that. They know that they're being taken there to die. And again, there's that fear that Jurnee's character, she will be assaulted first. And we're not even touching the fact that Tick and Uncle George could be assaulted in the same way too. I really don't think that is talked about as much, but yeah, like, unfortunately, black men can and have been assaulted in that type of way as well, because it's not always so much about pleasure for the assaulter so much as it is a display of power. And they have them face down in the ground. And I'm not gonna lie, the first time that scene happened, I had to watch it like this because I was just so afraid. And like I said, I was worried for Uncle George the most because from a narrative standpoint, he is older. He has a loving family waiting for him back at home. Like, yes, Tick, he has an uncle who loves him, an aunt who loves him, and a cousin that loves him. But they're Uncle George's nuclear family. That is a wife and child. And then Jurnee's character, she's estranged from her family. And like I said, Uncle George, he's older. His knees are bad. He's been doing this, like, for I don't know how long. So I really thought in my heart when they cocked, the guns, and the officer noted that they knew his name because, Tick, he was trying to say, like, hey, we're not thieves, we're just, black people passing by, you can check our truck. He's like, did you hear that? This boy gave me permission. You think you smarter than me? I really thought that they were going to blow Uncle George's head off right then and there. And then fortunately, that's when the beasts came. That's when the beasts came and they just tore shit up. And then, yes, I was afraid because these are monsters. Like, these are like beast animalistic monsters. But them arriving, it saved the black people's lives. And isn't that really just something? Like, when you're more afraid of racists with guns than you are afraid of, like, animalistic monsters that are going to eat you, like, doesn't that say something? And I really feel like another reason why, because I was still afraid of them, because, it's the unknown. They could eat the black people. But the reason why I was less afraid of them is because I know at the end of the day, when I turn off my TV, when I turn off my computer, when I turn off my iPad, or even if I have HBO on my phone, when I turn it off, those types of monsters go away. But racists with guns are very much real, and they exist. But anyway, enough about that. So, they, the black people, they smart. They book it, except for Uncle George. Like, he gets trapped and he gets stuck down. And again, that's why I'm so afraid that he's gonna die. And then, Tick and Jurnee's character, they run and they make it to, like, a shed. And then Tick's like, wait a minute, where's Uncle George? And then Jurnee's like, boy, if you don't get in here, close this door, you can't help Uncle George if you're dead. And so, they close it, and then just all of the officers except for 2 get eaten up. And I was happy for that. Like, bye, good, bless you, bye, good, yeah, chow down, pick, you use their rib cages to pick your teeth with it, monsters. You use their rib cages to pick your teeth with it. Make sure you get all that good racist meat out of your teeth. good dental hygiene for the monsters. And then the 2 officers, they make it to the same shed, and they're trying to get in. I wasn't gonna let them in. And if I were Jurnee and Tick, I would have been like, oh my god, the monsters have made it inside the shed. They opened up a hole and now they're eating us. To be petty and like be an asshole and like get the officers to run. But they don't do that, which is understandable because like in the heat of the moment, you're not thinking about it. And so, they basically, it took them having to like blow a hole in like the door to get Jurnee and Tick to open up, which I understand. And so they get in there, and then these ignorant racists, and it really just goes to show like how illogical and stupid racists are. They have the guns. They know that there are monsters out there killing and eating up their friends and their fellow officers, but they still have the guns pointed at the black people. They have the guns pointed at the black people, which not only is stupid, but I really do feel it just speaks to like their own sense of inadequacy, because they're so focused on like trying to control other people when they really need to focus more on defending themselves at the very least against actual monsters that are going to kill them. Like, it's just a way for them to exude power because they have lost control of the situation that they're in with these monsters. Like in the beginning, in the forest, they were the big bads, but then they realized that there was another being out there that was bigger and badder than them, so they need to press their boot on the neck of somebody else to make themselves feel great and to stand up. And so, they barricade the door, and then, that one, racist officer, he's like, I lost good men, and I'm like, I really don't care. Like, yeah, there is no way in that situation where I was ever gonna feel bad for those guys. Like, sorry, no empathy here. And so eventually, thankfully, Uncle George, he survives, and he had like the little flashlight, and he manages to make his way in, and then he very intelligently deduces that these are creatures of the night, and he says like, I was deep in the forest and they left me alone because I was by a flashlight, and that's another reason why they weren't out during the day. They're nocturnal, like they're vampire-like creatures. And so they're like, we need to get out and we need to go to the car and we need to turn on like the headlights, to keep the monsters away. And Tick, he volunteers because, he's a man. He's an actual man who's chivalrous and, and is a protector, which I really liked and appreciated. He volunteers to go without a gun, mind you. Without a gun. And then, the racist officer, he's just like, you have the good sense, leave us behind. And when I first heard that comment, I'm like, yeah, he'll leave the 2 of you behind, but trust and believe he's going to come back for his uncle and his friend. But of course, again, no, they're racist. They're not, logic, just goes out the window most of the time for them. And he tells Jurnee's character to go. And Tick is just like, no, but the officer, because again, he has to exude his authority because he's so pathetic as a human being and lost control of the situation. He's just like, I ain't asking. And then Jurnee, because, she too is protective over Tick and she cares about him and she doesn't want him to die. She's just like, it's okay. I'll do it. You remember I was on the track team. I was running real fast. And, Tick, like, I know that you said that, that you have, that you're a good driver at night despite having glasses. But I don't think right now is the best time for us to test that theory. So then she goes and she books it and she's running. And what I really liked about the fact that she was running while the monsters was around was that not one time, not once, did she look back. And that is something that has always bugged me in the horror genre. When the people are like running away from like the monsters, the serial killers, the demons or whatever, they look back and scream. Why? Why do you do that? Why do you look back and scream? You already know what's back there. That's why you're running away. Keep your eyes front. Keep your eyes front and look to the side to see if anything's going to come at you that way. You don't need to look back there. You know what's back there. And not once did she look back. I love that. I loved that, but I didn't love it as much as I love the fact that she didn't trip over air, because that's another thing that I never understood. Like, people that are running away and they trip over They trip and they fall down, and then you look at the ground, you don't see nothing. Not a branch, not a dead body, not like a ball, string, nothing. They tripped over air? Air. You tripped over air. But no, not Jurnee, because she's the best. She booked it. She didn't look back. She didn't trip over nothing. She got in the car. And another thing that made her great is that when the beasts were coming, before she was able to turn on like the headlights, she had her little camera and she used the flash to get him to go away. So that was really cool. And then while that is happening, we go back to like the shed, and we realize that, you know, the racist officer, he got bit, and then he starts growling. He's like, he growling. And then again, Uncle Clifford, because he's smart, he's just like, you know, what happens to a vampire when it gets bit? They turn into a vampire. And then Uncle Cliff, he tells the other racist officer, like, you need to shoot him. You need to shoot him. And then the other racist officer is just like, no, I'm not going to shoot him, as he sees his fellow officer just like morphing into like a monster with teeth or whatnot. And Tick is just like, shoot him, shoot the mother, shoot him, give me the gun, I'll do it. But no, that other race officer, he's not going to do that, because even though before his very own eyes he's seeing the dude like change into a monster, he still has that human compassion for him that he is unable to give to other black people. And he is refusing to shoot him, even though he's becoming a monster. And I was glad that he got chewed out and died. I was glad. I was happy about it. What I was not happy was that after he, you know, now in his full monster form, chewed out the other racist officer, he turned his eyes to Uncle George and Tick. That I was not happy about. And then Tick, he manages to get the gun. He shoots it, but it wasn't enough to kill it, and he's out of bullets. He's out of bullets, and I'm just like, ain't that of course. But you know what? Jurnee, because she's awesome, came in with the car, and she knocked him out. But we don't know what happened to Uncle George, and I was worried that he had got hit by the car as well in the fray. And then I also thought, like, wouldn't that be something? Like, I'm afraid that Uncle George is going to get killed by white racists. I'm afraid that he's going to get killed by monsters. But in the end, he is killed by accident by Jurnee with the car trying to fight the monsters. But of course, Uncle George is safe. And I'm just like, you know what, Uncle George? You gonna live this episode. You gonna live. The fear of you dying in this episode is gone. And, they go and they try and help Uncle Cliff, and then they're surrounded by the monsters. And you think that that's it, that there's no hope, that they're dead. And then this weird whistle-like sound comes, and then they go. They go. And I have a feeling that the white lady in the silver Monopoly game car had something to do with it. And then, the day has returned, and then they're safe. They're safe in more ways than just one, because, the nocturnal animalistic monsters, they're gone. But also, like, legally, they can't get lynched. They can't get lynched because, the sun has risen. The sun has risen. So they're safe in more ways than just one, and then the car's destroyed, and they can't use a cop car, because as soon as they go in the nearest town and they see a bunch of black people in a cop car with no cops, they're going to be like, what happened to the cops? What happened to it? So they don't need that. They don't need that drama. And then they're walking, and then they go to like this really big, fancy house. And I would have some hesitation. I probably just wouldn't go to the house, because most likely white folks were there, and I didn't want to deal with them. And then they used the front door. I was hoping that maybe it would be like a black person that, works at the house, because again, it is the 1950s, but it's a white person, and they were surprisingly welcoming, which made me nervous. And the man says, oh, hey, welcome, Atticus, we've been waiting for you. I'm just like, how do you know my name? Good sir. Of course, there is the possibility because Tick's father said, meet me, in what was it, Ardham, Massachusetts. I'm there, so maybe he knows his father about, and they just whatever. And that's basically the end of the episode for now. And like I said, I was very happy about this episode. I can't wait. Like, they've sold me for the rest of the show. Like, I'm gonna watch the rest of the show based off of that one episode alone, for better or for worse. Although I am betting it's gonna be better between like what I saw this first episode and then also what HBO did with Watchmen. Because visually everything was great. The costuming, the shots, and the way that they had the characters all dressed up, like, mwah. I mean, that's actually why I'm wearing this color lipstick, because of Jurnee's character. In like one of the scenes she was like wearing it, and I thought like, oh, this will be a cute thing to wear for this little review video. And I also like the acting, that was really good, and then just the writing and the pace of everything, and then the use of the voiceovers of, I believe, it was James Baldwin, the the Black American playwright. I believe that was his voice. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm like 60% sure that was him. And what I also liked about the show was that, again, they were just showing, showing the racism. They weren't just telling about they weren't just talking about the racism. They were actually showing it, and they were actually showing, and they didn't shy away from the fact that there were different levels of racism. Like, it's not all just, good old boys and officers pointing guns at innocent black people minding their own business. There is active racism, passive racism, and then actively violent racism. The police officers and the good old boys, they were actively violent racists. And then the showing of the signs, like, don't let the sun set on your way here. You hear? Like, that is active racism. It's not violent, but it is active racism because people are making an effort to, like, show their racism. And then also, like, the colored only section, that is also another form of active racism. But then also passive racism, because while they were traveling, they were at, like, this little ice cream parlor thingy, and then you saw, like, the divide, like, in the lights, where, well, in an area that was more well lit, like the white section, you had, like, the white customers and the white employees, and then, like, a white officer, just to show that, that added threat, there, laughing and talking and having a good time, while the black customers, who are also there, again, to give you their money, are being ignored. That was passive racism. And then another form of passive racism was, again, in the beginning of the episode, where the bus broke down and the truck was there, and not one white person was just like, oh, let's let the black people come because, they paid just as much as us. They were like, nope, they got their stuff, they went about their business, and then Tick and the black lady, they were left to fend for themselves. It was passive racism. They didn't actually say anything, but it was understood, like, hey, you're not coming in. They were very... The people that were driving the truck to help out the white people, they were being actively racist by denying them access, but the passengers themselves, they were being passively racist / complicit in racism by not sticking out for the black people. And then also another form of, it was either passive or active racism. I'm still debating on that. Maybe you guys can tell me what you think in the comment section. But the diner worker who called the good old boys, like, he himself was not doing the violence, but he was contributing to violent racism, and he was, so yeah, it was either, like I said, I'm still debating, because he himself didn't do the violence, so I'm debating, does that make him a passive racist? But also, at the same time, he was contributing to actively violent racism. So, like I said, just let me know what you guys think. Was it passive? Was it active? Like, I'm still on the fence about that. But yeah, I liked that the show showed that. They showed it and not just talked about it. And I am curious to see, like, where it goes. But anyway, thank you so much for, watching my review. And again, let me know what you guys think. Because not just with like the passive racism, the active racism, and then the actively violent racism, but just like everything in general. Like, did you like it? Like, I know I loved it. I'm gonna keep watching. But anyway, thanks and bye.